What's up, guys? Jason up, New 80s Revolution, down here in the cave for a Wrestling with the Past episode. That's right. We dive headfirst into 1985, January. In fact, very headfirst into 1985. January 1, 1985 is the premiere episode of Prime Time Wrestling, which eventually, about 8 years later, became Monday Night Raw. So Primetime Wrestling, January 1st, 1985, followed by a Tuesday Night Titans, which has now been moved to Fridays in 1985. Just a few days later, the first 85 episode of TNT. Two changes: it got moved to Fridays, and it is only an hour. It's an hour-long episode instead of 2 hours. So we've already got some big changes in the WWF at the time. Now, no bigger change than the news of today. Vince McMahon officially steps down as anything of the WWE. He has announced his retirement today. Amid a ton of ongoing controversies, probably controversies that in this day and age he won't get out of. I'm thinking Bill Cosby for some reason. Right now I'm thinking, when I think of Vince McMahon, I think of Bill Cosby. And how Bill Cosby got away with some stuff for a long time in a different time. And now Vince McMahon, I don't know if there's going to be any kind of, lawsuits or whatever. But Vince McMahon has stepped down from the WWE. It's over. The end of an era doesn't do it justice. I don't know how I feel about Vince McMahon. I think he's been gone for so long, behind the scenes for so long, that I don't really feel the loss. I'm not really a WWE fan anymore. But watching wrestling in '84 and now in '85. I'm seeing, Vince McMahon on my TV practically every single episode. And, it's interesting. I don't have the most to say. He, certainly developed a product that was my entire childhood. So I guess I, have to thank him for that. But I don't think he lived a very clean lifestyle, if you know what I mean. But whatever. Anyway, so let's kick off the Vince McMahon retirement show, talking about Primetime Wrestling, January 1st, 1985. It better get better, because it's not that great. And of course it gets better. I remember it getting better. But we're so used to the Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby the Brain Heenan Primetime Wrestling with the nice studio setup, and they're at the desk, and they're, it's bright, and Bobby has his, banana phone there and everything. Soon or eventually we see all kinds of WWF products lined up on the desk there, wrestling figures and all kinds of whatnots. But the first episode of TNT, the pilot, if you will, is awful. First of all, it's hosted by Jack Reynolds, my absolute least favorite commentator. Jack Reynolds primarily does Maple Leaf Wrestling. It's Jack Reynolds and it is Jesse Ventura in a very dark, dank studio introducing us to Prime Time Wrestling. And Jesse looks extremely disinterested to be there. He does not seem happy at all. Now, I think eventually Primetime Wrestling showed matches from syndicated TV, maybe even showed some matches that we didn't get a chance to see. I know they show a lot of Maple Leaf Garden matches eventually on Primetime. But this debut episode of Primetime Wrestling was very lackluster because it basically just showed matches from an MSG house show about 5-6 months earlier. That's it. So we've got, Jesse Ventura mentions the blood clots. He mentions that right in the beginning of the show because Jack Reynolds asks him, why he hasn't been in the ring, and Jesse says he got blood clots. And that's the second time he's mentioned it. He mentioned it on TNT, the Butcher Vashon wedding. So I didn't know that. I never knew that Jesse even acknowledged that. I thought it was just something that was, kept under wraps. But so we start the show off. It's Salvatore Balomo versus David Schultz from MSG. I always loved on TNT where, the guys would sit there, and then when they would announce the match, there was like a screen behind them that was really just probably, an edited, there was not really a screen behind them. But the guys would turn to watch the match, which wasn't really there. I used to like that. And then when they would come back from the end of the match, they would turn back around to the camera. I thought that was cool. Salvatore Balomo versus David Schultz. I've seen it. It was, I think it's maybe April MSG show. I think all of these matches are from the April or May MSG show. This one I didn't notice, I guess, when I originally talked about this house show, because you just never know with David Schultz matches if they're walloping each other for real, if David Schultz is angry or not. You just never know. Or maybe he's just really the best pro wrestler there is, who makes us completely terrified of him, kind of like Paul Orndorff. But interesting thing at the end of this match that I didn't notice before: Salvatore Balomo kicks out of Dr. D's flying elbow off the second rope. That's it. That's his finisher. And Salvatore Balomo kicked out, and he kicked out at 1. And I have no idea what happened there, because afterwards, Dr. D wallops him a few times. That's the second time I've used the word wallops. He wallops him a few times, and then pins him with a suplex. And then Sal Balomo stays down. So I don't know what the deal with that was. I don't know if Balomo, what he was thinking. Dr. D let him have it a few times, and then 30 seconds later got the pin with a standard suplex. So I think guys back then didn't quite know on the fly how to make things look good if somebody botched something. So they just go to the old suplex pin for whatever reason. I don't know. I think, they panic. Jack Reynolds is so bad. I just can't stand him. And Jesse Ventura, again, seems very disinterested and does not make the show any better. Because just Reynolds is bad. And I think this combination lasts maybe a few more episodes. It'll be interesting to see when Gorilla Monsoon comes in. I don't have all of the prime times, and I'm glad I don't, because, again, most of the primetime wrestling matches were repeat matches that we could have seen elsewhere, especially today when I have all of these house show footage. I think I have a lot of what they're going to show on primetime, and they show it, a month or two after the fact. So it's really not that great of a show, primetime wrestling. Let's see, Alpha versus Dick Murdock. This is the match that I talked about several months ago, house show-wise, with Murdock just flippity-floppeting all over the ring, overselling Alpha's offense. Great facials on Murdock as he's staggering and falling on his face flat. But again, I've already seen it. It's kind of hard to sit through it a second time. It really is. As a kid, I would probably not blink. I'd watch the same match probably, 50 times in a row and not care. It's harder to do now, to watch the same match over and over again. Mad Dog Vashon versus Rick Mcgraw, again from MSG. I think, like I said, I think these are all from the same house show. Yeah, as much as I love this stuff, it's hard to watch it a second time. Decent back and forth with McGraw. Vashon wins with a pile driver. Interview with David Sammartino. This was his debut at MSG. So, again, I don't know what month this is. I think April. He's interviewed by Gorilla Monsoon in the back. He takes on Moondog's Spot. David Sammartino wins with the small package. Spot attacks him afterwards with the dirty, nasty dog bone that he carries to the ring. We've got an interview with Tito Santana. Then we have a classic Tito versus Greg Valentine match, again from the same MSG card. This was actually the co-main event of this card at MSG. And I think it went on last, because also on this Primetime Wrestling is Hulk Hogan versus Big John Studd from the same MSG card, and Brutus Beefcake versus Tony Garea, and Adrian Adonis versus Sika. So basically, they almost reran an entire Madison Square Garden card on Primetime Wrestling's debut episode, and I don't know the logic in that one. Dated storylines. I don't know. I don't know why they went with that for the premiere episode. Imagine that happening today. Imagine WWF or WWE coming on and going, all right, we've got a brand new show for you. It starts tonight. And then you tune in and it's just all matches from like 4 months ago. And you're like, what? I don't know. So, Primetime Wrestling better get better because I don't like it. Before we go on, take a look at this hat. A couple of things. I did get, hair's growing. I did get the New 80s Revolution hat made, and it's not great. I got it off of Amazon. There's a ton of custom hat makers on Amazon, and this was cheap. It was like $12. You upload your design. They put it on the hat. I kind of wanted it a little bigger. You can't see the Pac-Man dots because it's on a white background. They got all the colors in the Rubik's Cube fine. I could have put it on a black background, I guess, and had the dots, sure. It's a really, really, really flimsy hat. Really cheap. And a little small. It is adult sized, but it's, I got to open it up pretty big there. It's a little small, but hey, there we go. For $12, ooh, there we go. For $12, I've got my own hat, and that's what I wanted, I suppose. Will I make them available to you guys? They're cheap. I mean, they're really cheap. I guess if you desperately want one, it's let me know. I guess I don't know. It takes a while. It comes from China. It takes a while to get here. Okay. Anyway. Oh, another thing that I need to do before we go on to TNT. I can't say too much about this right now, but there's a fan of the channel who's a very, very, very good guy, and he is in desperate need of a figure that I can't find, and for some reason is selling for stupid prices on eBay. My friend Andrew Davis, longtime friend of the channel, desperately needs a Powers of Pain Barbarian figure from the Jakks Classic Superstars line. And Andrew Davis is a good guy, and I cannot tell you why yet, but he's a good guy. If you go look him up on Instagram, if you go to Andrew Davis on Instagram, let's see if I can find his Instagram-y page. Yeah, it's andrew.davis.1840. Andrew.davis.1840 on Instagram. Go check him out now. Then you'll see why he's special. He's done some things for me based on that Instagram page. It'll all make sense to you when you go check it out. And I would like a favor in return to him. I need you guys to go deep into your toy boxes and look for the Jakks Classic Superstar Barbarian figure and get a hold of me, and let's figure out a deal for that figure so I can get it over to my man Andrew Davis. But definitely go check out that Instagram page. I'm gonna link it down below, as they say. If you check out the page, you'll know why he's special. Okay? Trust me, you want to check it out. All right, the next show that I'm going to talk about is the Friday night edition of TNT, January 4th, 1985. We've got a 1-hour show now instead of a 2-hour show. The show starts off with the introduction of the new Tony D and the TNT Band. Yeah, that's right. Tony D and the TNT Band. Basically a bunch of middle-aged white guys all wearing the WWF polo shirt and the WWF yellow and gold hat. And they're all just standing around playing some kind of elevator, poppy, jazz kind of thing. Tony D and the TNT Band. All right, we jump right in. Now, a horribly tragic thing happened the final 2 weeks of 1984. I didn't have the Championship Wrestling episodes. I didn't have them. So I missed, finally, after what felt like a year or more of Hillbilly Jim sitting around the crowd, I missed him finally becoming a wrestler. I missed it. It was on a Championship Wrestling episode. It had to have been the last couple weeks in December, and I missed it because TNT, January 4th, starts off with the training montage, if you will, where Hulk Hogan is training Hillbilly Jim how to wrestle. And Hillbilly Jim's a buffoon, right? So of course, it starts off with Hogan in Hillbilly Jim's kitchen, or Hillbilly Jim's in Hogan's kitchen. I don't know. It doesn't look like anybody's kitchen. It looks like a set, maybe. I don't know. And, of course, Hulk Hogan has to mix up Hillbilly Jim a breakfast cocktail, a protein-packed concoction. And, of course, Hulk Hogan has to down it with ease. And, of course, Hillbilly Jim has to struggle to get it down because it's so gross. And he's spitting it all over his big, hairy beard. And it's just silly. And then they get to the gym for some hanging and banging. And I found this to be so entertaining, and I really wish that I had seen the episode where Hillbilly, gets involved in a match finally, and Hogan comes out and rescues him, because we've got the training, and Hillbilly Jim is just, Hogan is showing him how to bench press, right? And he's got like 2 45-pound plates on there, so it's what is it, 135 pounds or whatever. And, so Hogan's doing that with ease, right? And then Hillbilly Jim gets on the bench, and he can't balance the bar, and the plates are too heavy for him. He can't do it. He's all over the place because he's never bench pressed a day in his life, right? Then they go to the cable crossovers. That's hilarious. Hogan is doing his classic with the cables, and then Hillbilly gets on it, and the cables are too much, and they're pulling him this way, and they're pulling him that way. Fantastic. Because, of course, again, Hillbilly Jim was from Mudlick, Kentucky, and he never worked out. Then they're in a ring in a gym, and Hogan's showing him how to hit the ropes. And of course, that Hillbilly's going to fall all over himself and trip all over himself, and he just can't hit the ropes. And Hogan's, frustrated with him because Hillbilly just wants to learn to wrestle, but Hogan is telling him he's got to learn these other things first, and Hillbilly Jim just wants to wrestle. It's fun. I remember liking it as a kid. I remember really loving it as a kid, watching Hillbilly Jim get trained to wrestle. Next up, we've got Nikolai Volkov coming to the set, and he's sits down, and they just do some talking, and then they go to a match with Nikolai Volkov and Athens Apollo. And then Nikolai's singing with Tony D and the TNT Band, and I just started thinking, you got the Hillbilly Jim segment followed by Nikolai Volkov and this awful singing, and I'm just thinking, how cartoony Vince McMahon wanted to be even back then. And as a kid, I'm not really noticing it much or caring. Obviously, as a kid, I knew it was different than the NWA. But man, oh man, Vince McMahon really wanted to go in a completely different direction than professional wrestling very, very early. Like, very early. And he clearly never stopped. He really never looked back. Because it's just silly. I mean, the WWF, these shows are silly. TNT is a silly show. Then we've got... there's a great sign in the audience when Nikolai is taking on Athens Apollo called... and the sign says, "Who you gonna call Commie Busters?" You know, taking advantage of our love for Russia and the Ghostbusters at the same time, right? Commie Busters. Then they come back, they talk with Nikolai a little bit. He says he wants to take on Hulk Hogan for the belt. Then they go to another match. They go to Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov teaming up to take on SD Jones and Aldo Marino. They don't show the whole match because while Nikolai is singing the Russian national anthem, Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo come out and wave flags, American flags, and walk all around the ring, waving the flag, interrupting Sheik and Volkov. You know, they're going nuts in the ring. They don't show any of the match. I assume that SD and Aldo get the upper hand on Sheik and Volkov for a little while as they're distracted by Adonis or Windham and Rotundo. So you got to think that a title change is coming soon. Windham and Rotundo were the champions at WrestleMania 1, which is in March, so you got to think that they beat Adonis and Murdoch, who are on their way out of the WWF. They got to beat them soon, and then have a brief title run until Sheik and Volkov get it. Captain Lou Albano is next. He comes out in a tuxedo. He's a full face now. Total good guy. He's shaking hands with Vince McMahon. He's shaking hands with Lord Alfred Hayes. And he has claimed to have seen the light, and I love that. They used to always say that back in the day when wrestlers would turn good, that they have seen the light. And of course, he's got his, connection with multiple sclerosis. You can't be affiliated with an organization like that and be a bad guy. So you got to turn Captain Lou. So he's, doing a total face interview, but he starts freaking out about Roddy Piper, and he's angry at Piper for the attack at MSG during Cyndi Lauper's award presentation. So he's making all these, big threats to Roddy Piper. And as the interview ends, we've got, let's see. So as they're talking to Lou Albano, they go to a very strange interview clip that I've never seen. It looks like it was from a syndicated show. It looks like it was prior to the awards presentation at MSG. It's Vince McMahon interviewing Piper and Albano from a set, like from an interview set, like how they do during the syndicated shows. And it's basically setting the table for what's about to happen at MSG, because Piper's talking real bad about Lauper, and instead of going along with it, Lou is getting upset and making faces and getting frustrated, and then he just walks off the set, and they don't acknowledge it at all, but you can see that Lou Albano is conflicted, right? He doesn't like all this naughty talk about Cyndi Lauper. All right, so then Albano leaves, and they announce Roddy Piper is the next guest. So Roddy Piper is allowed back to TNT because he was banned. Because the last time he was on TNT, he smacked Lord Alfred Hayes very hard in the face and was then banned from TNT. He's allowed back, and he's over the top as a bad guy here. He is just so bad, so mean, threatening Lord Alfred in his silly Roddy Piper way. And then he's, again, talking badly about Cyndi Lauper, and Captain Lou comes back out. Captain Lou comes back out and really starts messing with Piper, and then he flicks Roddy Piper in the face and tells him to shut up. And Piper goes, "Oh, okay, you want me to shut up? I'll shut up. You want me to shut up?" And he gets up, and then he smacks Lou Albano, and Albano goes flying over the couch. He does the tumble over the couch, and Piper calls him, "Hey, you fat piece of garbage," and hilarious. And Vince McMahon is irate, "Get out of here, get a hold of yourself." And Lord Alfred's, "Oh my goodness," so that's it. So that's Piper smacks. He smacks Captain Lou. Right. So then we've got the Tonga Kid. They show Tonga Kid versus Roddy Piper. This is when Tonga Kid is just smashing Piper, goes nuts on Piper. It's very early, I think, in the Tonga Kid saving Jimmy Snuka deal. Snuka's not back at this point. They're showing old matches, so they've got Tonga Kid just beating the tar out of Roddy Piper really crush him with a chair like 6-7 times before a bunch of bad guys have to run in and break it up. And that's it. that's TNT. They come back, and they go back to go to commercial, come back, and it's Lou, Alfred, and Vince all standing together on the set. And Lou is like, "Oh, I'm okay," and okay, so he walks off, and then you've got Vince and Lord Alfred closing the show, just going, "Oh my word, and Vince is, and that's how TNT ends. That's my one-man show right there of TNT. So I feel bad. I feel bad for feeling bad about these shows. I know I loved them through child's eyes, but can I tolerate them as an adult? Well, yes, I think so. If I just sit back and enjoy the silliness of it. Yes, I will. So we've got all of 1985 to talk about. We've got Championship Wrestling. We've got All-American Wrestling, which was on USA. I've got a few discs of those. Primetime. We've got TNT. We got the house shows. We got it all. So we're going to have a fun 1985, just like we had a fun 1984. And then we can talk about WrestleMania. Yeah, all right. So that's all. That's the show. Enjoy. Good night now.